Emily sat across from her friend and said something shocking. She had spent $9,000 to cancel her father's wedding. Her friend's eyes widened, but Emily stayed calm. She explained that her dad was going to marry someone from the past, a woman who had once been her mother's best friend. Years ago, that woman had helped tear their family apart. Now, she was going to be Emily's stepmother. What made it worse was how the wedding was being paid for. Emily's grandmother had passed away, and she had always promised to leave something behind for Emily. But instead, most of the money went to her father. He said it was for family needs. Instead, he used it for the fancy wedding, a vineyard ceremony, and even a trip to Greece. Emily felt sick when she found out. She couldn't let it happen without doing something. She and her boyfriend, who worked in law, looked into the wedding contract. They found a small detail that said if there was a legal challenge from an heir, the venue could cancel the booking. So Emily used that clause. She sent the paperwork and got the wedding cancelled. It cost her $9,000, but she didn't care. To her, it was worth it. Her father was furious. He called her and yelled, asking her to fix everything. She offered to pay any penalty just to keep it cancelled. He called her bitter and selfish. Then he sent a message to the whole family, saying she was no longer welcome at Thanksgiving. "You're not family anymore," he wrote. Some relatives supported him. Others stayed silent. A few messaged Emily quietly, saying they understood. Emily felt hurt, but not sorry. She believed her grandmother would have supported her. She didn't want revenge for fun. She wanted to protect what mattered. She wanted to make things right. Emily knew one thing for sure. Real family doesn't lie, steal, and forget who you are. When Emily was a little girl, she loved her dad very much. He was funny, kind, and always made time for her. They used to play games, go for walks, and eat ice cream together. Emily felt safe when he was around. To her, he was the best dad in the world. Her mum worked hard, but was always there too. Emily remembered a woman named Kelly, who everyone called Aunt Kelly. She was her mum's best friend. Kelly came over often. Sometimes she brought snacks, and sometimes she stayed the night. Emily liked her back then. Kelly smiled a lot and acted like part of the family. But sometimes, Emily noticed strange things. Her mum looking upset when Kelly laughed with her dad, or the way they talked in whispers when they thought no one was listening. Emily didn't understand what was going on. She was only 10. Then, one night, everything changed. Her mum found some text messages on her dad's phone. Emily heard shouting from the other room. Her mum was crying and her dad was trying to explain something. The next day, her dad packed a bag and left. He didn't say much. He just told Emily that things were going to be different now. Emily didn't see him for a long time after that. Her mum was heartbroken, but tried to stay strong. She picked up 2 jobs and worked long hours just to keep their home. Emily would sometimes wait by the window, hoping to see her dad coming back, but he didn't. Some days, she cried quietly in her room. Other days, she helped her mum with dinner or folded laundry to feel useful. Slowly, they built a new routine, just the 2 of them. As Emily got older, she began to understand what really happened. Her dad had been cheating on her mum with Kelly. The woman who used to tuck her in and bring her cookies had been lying to them both. It felt like a deep cut that never fully healed. Even though many years had passed, the memory still hurt. That betrayal had shaped her whole view of family and trust. Emily learned early that people you love can break your heart, and sometimes the people you call family are the ones who cause the most pain. But she also learned something else. Her mum never gave up. She kept going, no matter how hard things got, and Emily grew up strong because of that. Even as a child, she knew one thing. Her mum was her real hero, and nothing could take that away. Almost 15 years passed without much word from Emily's father. He had called a few times when she was younger, sent a birthday card here and there, but for the most part, he was gone. Emily grew up without him. She finished school, became a nurse, and helped her mum as much as she could. They built a quiet, peaceful life. Her dad was like a shadow in the past, something she tried not to think about too much. Then, out of nowhere, he called. His voice was cheerful, like nothing had ever happened. He said he wanted to see her, catch up, and fix things. Emily wasn't sure how to feel. Part of her was curious, part of her was angry, and another part was tired of carrying old pain. Still, she agreed to meet him. It felt strange sitting across from him again after so many years. He looked older, with more grey in his hair, but he smiled the same way. At first, he acted warm and sorry. He said he had made mistakes and wanted to be a better father. Emily stayed quiet most of the time. She didn't know if she could trust him. They met a few more times. The dinners were awkward. They talked about work, small things, never the past. Her dad avoided the hard topics, and Emily didn't push, yet. Then, one evening, he looked at her and said he had some news. He smiled and said, "I'm getting remarried." Emily raised her eyebrows but stayed calm. Then he added, "It's someone you already know, Kelly." Emily froze. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Her heart raced and her hands shook. She tried to stay calm, but the shock hit her like a wave. Kelly, the woman who had broken their family, the woman who had once been her mother's best friend, the woman her father had left them for. She stared at her dad, waiting for him to say he was joking, but he just kept smiling, as if this was normal, as if years of hurt didn't matter. Emily stood up and left without saying a word. When she got home, she told her mum. Her mother's face went pale. She didn't cry or shout. She just said, "I don't want to talk about it." That was all. Emily didn't bring it up again, but the news stayed with her like a stone in her chest. Her father had come back, not to make things right, but to repeat the past. He hadn't changed. He just wanted her to accept it, and Emily knew she never could. One afternoon, Emily got a phone call from her cousin Sarah. They hadn't spoken in a while, but Sarah sounded nervous and unsure. She said she had something to tell Emily, something about their grandmother's estate. Emily's heart sank. Her grandmother had passed away 2 years earlier. She had been kind, strong, and always fair. Emily had loved her deeply. Sarah explained that most of their grandmother's money didn't go to all the grandkids like they thought. It went mostly to Emily's father. Emily was confused. That didn't sound right. Her grandmother always said she wanted her money to help the whole family, especially the younger ones. Emily asked Sarah if she was sure, and Sarah said yes. She had seen the paperwork. Emily called the family lawyer and asked questions. At first, the lawyer hesitated, but then confirmed it. Yes, the estate had been divided, but the largest part went to her father. He had said it was for family responsibilities. That was the reason he gave for getting a bigger share. Emily was shocked. She tried to calm herself, thinking maybe he was using it to help someone, maybe to support an elderly relative or fix something important. But then she found out the truth. He was spending it on his new wedding. Not just any wedding, but an expensive one at a vineyard with a band, flowers, and everything fancy. He had also booked a honeymoon trip to Greece. Emily felt like she had been punched in the stomach. Her father took money that should have helped the whole family and used it for himself and Kelly. It was hard to believe. Her grandmother would never have agreed to that. She was careful with money and cared about fairness. Emily could still hear her saying, "Take care of each other." Now that money was going toward wine tastings, silk dresses, and a trip across the world for a woman who had helped destroy their family, Emily couldn't stay silent anymore. She was filled with anger and sadness. Her father had not only betrayed her mother and her, but now he had disrespected her grandmother's wishes too. She sat alone in her apartment that night, thinking about everything. The man who said he wanted to fix things was still doing harm. He hadn't changed. He was just better at hiding it. Emily knew her grandmother would want her to speak up, to do something. And in that moment, Emily made a decision. She wasn't going to let this go. Not this time. Emily couldn't stop thinking about what her father had done. The money from her grandmother was supposed to help the family, not pay for a fancy wedding and a vacation with Kelly. It felt wrong, and the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She talked to her boyfriend Daniel, who worked as a paralegal. He listened carefully as she explained everything. Then he had an idea. Daniel asked if she had seen the contract for the wedding venue. Emily said no, but she knew where her father kept some documents at work. She managed to get a copy of the contract and showed it to Daniel. He read it closely and pointed out a special rule written in small letters. It said that if someone from the family who had a legal right to the estate raised a dispute, the venue could cancel the booking without a refund. Emily was shocked. She hadn't expected anything like that. It felt like a small chance, but it was real. She talked it over with Daniel, and they decided to take the step. Emily wrote a legal letter explaining that she was an heir and that the money used for the wedding was under dispute. She sent the notice to the venue with proof from the estate documents. A few days later, she got an email. The wedding was cancelled. The venue would not host it because of the challenge. Emily felt a strange mix of relief and fear. She had done something big, and she knew it wouldn't go quietly. Her father called her the same day. He was furious. He shouted over the phone, demanding she fix it. He said she had ruined everything and embarrassed him. Emily stayed calm and told him she didn't regret it. She even offered to pay the penalty fee to the venue herself. She said it wasn't about money, it was about what was right, but her father didn't care. He called her vindictive. He said she was jealous, bitter, and trying to destroy his happiness. Emily hung up the phone, her hands shaking. It hurt to hear those words, but deep down, she knew she wasn't wrong. She didn't do this to hurt him. She did it to stand up for what her grandmother had wanted. She did it because no one else would. She had tried to stay quiet for too long, and now it was time to act. Even if people misunderstood her, even if her father hated her, Emily knew she had done the right thing. After the wedding was cancelled, everything fell apart quickly. Emily's father sent a group email to the whole family. In it, he said Emily was no longer welcome at Thanksgiving. He didn't call her by name. He just said anyone who tried to destroy love had no place at his table. Emily read the message twice. Her hands felt cold. She had expected anger, but not this much. Some aunts replied to the email right away. One called Emily cruel. Another said she should be ashamed of herself. A few cousins even unfollowed her on social media. Emily sat quietly and tried not to cry. She had only done what she thought was fair. She hadn't expected people to agree, but she didn't think they would turn against her so fast. But not everyone was loud about it. One aunt sent her a short message in private. It said, "I wish I had your courage." Another cousin messaged her and told her not to feel bad. A few others stayed quiet, but Emily could tell they understood. Still, it hurt. She had grown up with these people. They had shared birthdays, holidays, and backyard games. Now it felt like she didn't belong. Thanksgiving came, and Emily didn't go. Her mom didn't go either. They stayed home and made a small dinner. They watched old movies, told jokes, and tried to keep the mood light. But deep inside, Emily knew things had changed forever. Her dad had made it clear. He had chosen his new life and pushed her out of it. Still, Emily didn't feel regret. She missed her family, but she didn't feel guilty. She had stood up for her grandmother's wishes. She had spoken the truth when others stayed silent. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. Emily sat with her mom after dinner and looked around. There was no crowd, no big table, but there was peace, real peace. And for now, that was enough. After being banned from Thanksgiving and pushed out by her father, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Kelly. The woman had caused so much damage to her family, and now she was marrying her dad and living off her grandmother's money. Something didn't feel right. Emily felt like there was more to Kelly than anyone knew. She decided to look into her past. Emily started with simple searches online. At first, she found only basic things, old photos, a few work records, and old addresses. But then she discovered that Kelly had been married before, not once, but twice. Both marriages ended in divorce. One of the ex-husbands had filed for bankruptcy shortly after. Emily found court records that showed money problems, unpaid loans, and a lot of debt connected to Kelly's name. The deeper Emily looked, the more strange things she found. She came across a court document that was sealed. It didn't say much, but it had Kelly's name and the word custody. That made Emily pause. She hadn't known Kelly had a child. Her father never said anything, and neither had Kelly. If it was sealed, that meant it was private. Maybe something serious had happened. Emily felt stuck, so she called someone she hadn't talked to in a while. Her old college roommate, Maya. Maya was smart with technology and loved solving puzzles. Emily explained everything, and Maya agreed to help. Within a few days, Maya found more records buried deep online. They were hard to understand, but clear enough. Kelly had a child years ago, but she lost custody. There were signs that she had left the child with someone else and never came back. Emily felt sick. How could her father trust Kelly? How could he give her so much money, so much power, when she had hidden something so big? It was more than just money or an old family fight now. This was about someone who had a history of walking away from the people who trusted her. Emily printed the documents and saved everything carefully. She didn't know yet what she would do with it, but she knew she couldn't ignore it. The truth was too heavy to leave in the dark. Looking at the papers in her hands, Emily felt a cold sense of clarity. Her father had chosen someone who had lied, hurt others, and left a child behind. Maybe he didn't know the full truth, but now Emily did, and she couldn't stay quiet anymore. Emily felt the weight of the documents in her bag as she stepped into the downtown office tower. Her father was a top executive at Hartwell & Sons, a family business known for strict rules about honesty and conduct. If anyone could expose his wrongs, it would be the board of directors there. She stayed late one evening and slipped the sealed envelope onto the corporate secretary's desk. Inside were copies of court filings, proof of Kelly's sealed custody case, and records of her father's misuse of grandmother's funds. Emily left without leaving a trace, trusting the board to act. Within days, the board convened an emergency session. Chairpersons whispered about possible ethics violations. Hartwell and Sons had flourished through fairness and respect for family promises. Now they faced whispers of scandal. Company lawyers began digging into the estate documents, and senior managers prepared statements. Emily watched news clippings on her phone, rumors of an inquiry at her father's firm. Kelly sensed the change first. She had been living in ease, planning centerpieces and honeymoon flights. Then she heard from a friend inside the vineyard company. The venue received inquiries from lawyers tied to Hartwell and Sons. She tried to ignore it, but a dry throat and restless nights told her something was wrong. The moment she saw the board's public notice, an investigation into possible misuse of family estate funds, she froze. Emily's father, who had always managed crises with smooth apologies, lost his composure. He paced his study at home, phone pressed against his ear as he tried to calm the board's anger. He muttered assurances that everything would be fine, but no one believed him. His voice cracked when he called Kelly, begging her to stay strong. Kelly, in turn, cried and accused him of hiding things she never asked to know. At Hartwell and Sons headquarters, the investigation team requested internal emails and contract detail. The board chair read aloud the clause about ethics violations. Misusing inheritances counted as a serious breach of trust. Executives exchanged worried glances. Some had once admired Emily's father for his leadership. Now they wondered whether he had betrayed every value the company stood for. Back at home, Emily watched the turmoil unfold. She felt no joy in seeing her father unravel, but she knew it had to happen. The man who abandoned her family and then tried to buy his way back in had to face consequences. Her mother, waiting for news with a trembling heart, held Emily's hand and whispered thanks only she could hear. Words spread quickly in their small town. Neighbors who once greeted Emily's father politely now glanced away. The company's stock dipped slightly as investors questioned whether the scandal would damage Hartwell and Sons' reputation. Kelly's online posts stopped abruptly. Emily realized the woman who once laughed in her childhood living room now trembled behind closed doors. Through it all, Emily stayed steady. She had set out to protect her family's legacy, and in doing so, she had forced the truth into the light. The board investigation was only the beginning, but it made clear that no one, no matter their name or title, was above accountability. Thanksgiving came, but this year felt very different for Emily. Instead of the big family gathering, she stayed home with her mum. They didn't cook a huge meal, just made their favorite dishes together. Simple food, warm drinks, and a few candles on the table. Emily invited 2 close friends who had no place to go for the holiday. They all laughed, shared stories, and watched old movies. There was no drama, no tension, just peace and kindness. Emily felt thankful for that. She thought about her father's Thanksgiving. From what she heard, only a few people showed up. Some of the cousins came, but the mood was cold. People didn't smile much. The room was quiet, not filled with laughter like past years. Aunts and uncles sat stiffly at the table. No one talked about the cancelled wedding or the investigation, but it hung in the air like a dark cloud. Later that night, Emily's phone buzzed. It was a message from her Aunt Lisa. The aunt had clearly been drinking. Her eyes were red, and her makeup was smudged in the photo. She sent Emily a selfie with a simple message. "You were right." Emily stared at it for a moment. She didn't know how to feel. Part of her felt sad. Another part felt strong. She showed it to her mom, who gave a small nod. "They're starting to see the truth," her mum said. Emily nodded too. It had taken time and pain, but the truth was finally shining through. As the night ended, Emily looked around the small living room. Her mum was smiling. Her friends were dozing off on the couch, and soft music played in the background. She realized something important. Family isn't always the one you're born into. Sometimes it's the people who stay, who listen, and who love you for who you are. Emily didn't miss the big dinner, the fancy table, or the old family traditions. What she had now was better. It was real, it was safe, and it was hers. That Thanksgiving, she didn't feel lost. She felt found. A few weeks after Thanksgiving, Emily was cleaning the small storage closet in her mother's house. She opened an old box filled with her grandmother's belongings. Most of it was just papers, old photos, and keepsakes. But at the bottom of the box, Emily found something she had never seen before. It was a small envelope with her name on it, written in her grandmother's careful handwriting. The words on the front said, "For Emily, on your 25th birthday." Emily held the letter gently. Her heart beat faster as she opened it. The letter was short but full of love. Her grandmother had written, "Don't let them decide your worth. Protect your peace. Life will test you, but don't forget how strong you are. I see you, Emily, and I am proud of you." Emily blinked away tears. Her 25th birthday had passed 3 years ago, but no one had ever given her this letter. Somehow it had been forgotten or hidden away. Maybe her father had taken it, or maybe it was just lost in the shuffle after her grandmother passed. Either way, reading it now meant everything. Tucked inside the envelope was a small key and a folded note that said, "Safety deposit box, Trust Bank." Emily drove to the bank the next day. She showed the key and her ID, and the manager led her to a private room. Inside the deposit box was a small folder holding several documents. She looked closer and realized they were savings bonds, worth $20,000 in total. Emily stood there in shock. Her grandmother had left this money just for her. Quietly, without telling anyone, her grandmother had made sure Emily had something of her own, not controlled by her father, not shared, just hers. After thinking for a few days, Emily knew what she wanted to do. She didn't want to spend the money on clothes or trips. Instead, she used the money to start something meaningful. She opened a small support fund in her grandmother's name. It was for women who had gone through betrayal, heartbreak, or family pain, a place where they could get help, feel safe, and rebuild. She shared the news with her mom, her friends, and the few family members who still spoke to her. Everyone smiled, proud of what she had done. Even people she hadn't talked to in months reached out to say they admired her strength. Emily didn't look back. She didn't try to fix things with her father. She didn't worry about the past anymore. She had done what was right, and now she had peace. Her grandmother's voice stayed in her heart, reminding her that she was enough and always had been. From that day on, Emily walked forward with quiet power, a new purpose, and no regrets. Do you think Emily did the right thing by exposing her father and walking away from her old family ties? Or should she have stayed quiet and tried to keep the peace? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new one.